What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Hey, aloha, y'all. Welcome to the show. I am Daniel Aaron, and I'm your host here for the Art of Vibrant Living show. And as you might guess by the show name, this is about you living your most vibrant, thriving life in all the ways that are significant and meaningful to you. Now, one thing to note, please take in what you learned today. Please be entertained, be inspired. That will be easy. We have an amazing guest today. You will feel inspired, and take it one step further. Please take it one step further and do something with this information. You will receive gold today. And if it sits on the shelf, if it stays in your mind, not worth so much, put it into action. Try it out. Would you? Thank you. Okay. And by the way, if you are on your road to a more vibrant, thriving life, or if there's something you're moving away from or something you want to create, I would love to connect with you. Let's have a conversation, because that's my job and my mission is to support one person at a time to live their most vibrant, thriving life. So you can reach me by email, daniel@danielaaron.com. And let's get on with the show today. Annmarie Entner, what an amazing woman. Now, not only does she have the ultimate certification as a life coach, she has the ultimate certification for being of value in the world, for entrepreneurship, for healing. And that is because she had a really challenging trail with rheumatoid arthritis. And I don't know about y'all, if you have encountered the world of autoimmune diseases. I have to some degree, and it's an insidious, challenging world. So Annmarie has not only had an incredible, challenging journey with it, she's overcome it. She's a life coach. She's on a mission to help other women overcome it. And I'm so thrilled that you are here with us, Annmarie. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and just have an open conversation about living life today.
Living life today, I'm with you. Yeah, and it's like, I don't know nearly as much as you do about autoimmune diseases, though I've certainly had a few people close to me just be worn down and confused and pained, and seeing that their life force and their quality of life just get little by little dialed down with that. So of course, I know you a little bit, and our guests may not know you at all. So would you be up for sharing a little bit of your journey, like what got you to where you are now and the work you're doing in the world?
Absolutely. And it started before I was even diagnosed. I had decided just before I was 50, I was going to change. Had no idea how to do it. And I had heard another life coach talk, and she spoke about you can change that thought. You don't have to live in that thought. You have circumstances, and you can change that. And I kind of went along with the flow and all of that, and life got healthy. We all have this idea of what healthy is. I started running. I love to be active. I love to be outside. And I was done a few 5Ks and decided I was going to train for a half marathon. And I had foot problems. And this is where it really changes. It's right before COVID. I'm all upset. Life is devastating. I hadn't figured out really how to deal with some of this stuff, coping. We all cope differently. And I ended up having foot surgery. They thought it was just like a bone spur. Oh, you'd be fine. They took out some fascia. And I had already been experiencing a lot of pain and going through menopause. You just kind of like, life happens. You're like, oh, I played sports. I played softball. I was the tomboy. I broke all my fingers. So, I'm going to this rheumatologist to just shut them all up. Like, oh, I'll just do what I'm told. And I had foot surgery, and they fixed a bunion, and they took this fascia off my foot. And I got a call from the pathologist, and they said to me, "Oh, it's just." I love when they say that. It's just a rheumatoid nodule. And I went from holy shit, panic, like right there, like, and my life had changed in an instant, and it wasn't even from a doctor in a doctor's office. And my next went right into seeing a rheumatologist, and I went right to the steroids, to the biologics. I've had many different drugs along the way, and COVID hit, and I was stuck to one drug to work because they took us all off of it. But the worst part of it was my mindset was not correct. I thought I was going to die. I was going to be in a wheelchair. I was not going to enjoy my daughter, her children, and life was over is what I thought it was going to be. And somewhere along the line, I decided enough was enough. It was time to really address change, because that's the only thing that in life that doesn't, it just happens. We have no choice. Life change happens whether we want it or not. And I went straight on. I got so much help from my doctors. I became extremely an advocate for myself. To 7 medications later, I'm in remission. And remission is really, for me, I have pain that's doable. I can deal with it. I have run my first 5K since then, pain-free. And I always get emotional about that, because running was my way of dealing, my first line of coping, and it was taken away from me, and I got it back. And that to me was a success on my part, the work that I have done. And during this whole process, I lost a father, a mother, a niece, and I learned how to embrace life in the moment, because everything changes in a moment. And I never give up now. I never give up, and I never give in. And I hope that is a message that people hear, because there's no reason to give up unless you choose to not embrace change and you fight it. We are worth fighting for. We are worth fighting for ourselves. And that's a big one for me. Fight for ourselves, because no one else is going to do it for you. And here I am today, coaching women on how to embrace the yuck of RA, the pain, the mind part, my spouse, my husband, helping him. Like I talk to other spouses now, because my husband took over for me. So we are, caretakers too. We took them hostage, and I gave them back. Like, you can live your life now. Let's just enjoy it. So there's a lot to be learned about having it. Not every RA patient is the same, because we all have a different body, and our bodies are all different, and we all respond differently, even our brains, how we process. So I'm on a journey, a path of purpose to help any woman, especially middle age, because that's usually when it hits, which I found out through a lot of reading, either right after you have a baby, because your hormones are all out of whack, or when you go through menopause. And that's what happened. That's what was going on. And I'm happy I'm on the other side of that part, but I'm not on the other side, except for I know that today I get to live and enjoy life and dance my way through a lot of things, because that's kind of how I do things. I dance. If I can move those feet and move my arms, even if on the floor or on a chair, I've got movement, and that's important when you have RA. You have movement. Got to keep moving.
Beautiful. Well, clearly you have overcome a lot and learned a lot. And before we go on to the other side and that piece, if you're willing, I would love it if you would help us understand a little bit more, right? In two ways. Like one, for anybody, myself included, that doesn't really know fully what rheumatoid arthritis means, and then also for you, or and maybe for others, like what's the worst of it? What are the biggest challenges or worst symptoms to deal with?
So rheumatoid arthritis, and there's two types. There's seronegative and seropositive. I'm positive, which means it's when I was diagnosed, I was already at stage 4, because I'm stage 3 because I have damage. I didn't, so there's that. But it attacks all of your body. Like I'm red. This is part of it. Like it attacks my skin. I don't know if you can, I'll go this way. This is good, but it attacks your skin, your joints. It can attack your heart, your lungs. It attacks everything, but mainly it's your joints, and it's your body eating you. I mean, it's very, as clear as I can explain it. It's your body eating and attacking yourself, thinking that I'm an infection.
Right.
So there's that, and I forget the other question of well, that would be it. That's a lot of pain. So in your joints, for me, again, I thought I had just arthritis from playing sports, but it affects the little joints in your hands. And someone once asked me what it felt like to be in a flare. And I don't know if you remember when you were kids and you'd shake hands and you'd squeeze that hand and rub your joints together. I don't know if you remember doing that. You just kind of like rubbing them together. That's what a flare feels like continuously.
Oof.
It's a constant pain. And the only relief that I was able to get was I was on copious amounts of steroids to take the inflammation down, in with taking my biologics. Some people do it other ways. I was very aggressive because I was like, I am from the Northeast. We do everything aggressively. It's like what I like to say. But yeah, it to me, the pain is very great, and it can overcome all our thoughts. And along the process, I now know when the pain starts what I have to do. And I have to sit, get a grip on myself, first of all, and I start a protocol. I call my doctor, I need steroids. What are we going to do? And I start the process before it gets too far, too great, the pain where I can't move. And that's just me. We all have different ways of dealing it, but the pain is great. I remember I had a child. I was doing with the pain, the Lamaze breathing. It's a lot. People don't really understand it. My feet were a little bit different. They were burning, and my knees just feel like they're cracking. But everybody's a little bit different. But my granddaughters talk about a time that I couldn't walk, and I had to crawl upstairs. And that was, I had a failure of another drug. And I think that was, who knows what was, but now they talk about how I dance with them. So they also saw how you hit a bottom and you can come back. And and I think that's lessons that you can teach anybody. And that's what I try to teach, that, you can hit a bottom, you can be in a lot of pain, but if we can wrap our brain around that, it's just pain. It's a reaction. And if we breathe through it, do yoga through it, write through it, or if you can't write, you talk into your phone just to get the feelings out and the thoughts. And then you're capable of making your next best decision.
Wow, thank you. And the physical pain aspect of it, must be just so intense and difficult. And I forget sometimes for myself. I've been into yoga for a long time. I was a fat kid, so I knew something about what it's like to be really uncomfortable in the body. But as I got into adulthood, I learned how to, create a good physical environment for myself. So I forget sometimes what it's like. And there are a lot of people living in constant pain.
Chronic pain in general is painful. And now you add a disease on top of it. it's mind-boggling. Like you just kind of like you expect as you get older, right? You expect that. You
I don't.
expected, well,
No.
I kind of expected like when I was younger that things were going to happen because I was a rough and tumbly kid. So I just kind of expected. I didn't expect this. You never
Mm,
prepared for this. And I think that's the joy that I find when I'm coaching is I get to help them prepare because
mm,
there's going to be a grief that you're going to have. And they're like, oh, I need to grieve the old me. I'm like, no, you got to
mm.
grieve the you that you thought you were going to be.
Oh.
Right. Because you have this, oh, I'm going to be old and gray with my wife or my partner or whomever, whatever that was going to be. And you don't have that.
Mm,
I grieved what I thought I was going to have as an older woman. The past is the past. That's always the past. But our future, that changed the day we were diagnosed.
mm.
And we don't think about that. Everybody wants to grieve about, well, look what I did, look what I was. You're always what you were, but what are you going to be in the future? And that's
Mm.
I went to a conference this weekend and we talked about our goal life. What do you want our goal life to look like? And that can change a million times.
Mm.
So yeah, I grieve. I still grieve occasionally that what I thought I would be doing.
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
going to be doing no great hiking. So, I mean, I would love to go hiking, but I know I can only do so much. So I do little hikes. What's the word I'm looking for? You modify.
mm. So let me backtrack because I want to double check. I think one of the first things I heard you say, if I got it right, is that before you got the symptoms from the RA and before you got the diagnosis, you had made a decision in yourself that you
Hmm.
wanted to change. Did I hear that
Hmm.
right?
I did. I was done being heavy. I was done, living in the past. I had had a lot of trauma, which I think also plays a part
Mm.
into my life. Of getting diagnosed and having your body attack yourself. And that's just, a lot of people have different views on it, but that's what I think. I had quite a bit of trauma growing up, more when I was older as an adult.
Mm.
And I had let that get me.
Mm.
And I did say prior to this that um, RA taught me how to cope. So it took me all the way back to deal with my trauma and move forward. It's a gift. It was a gift that I don't know for who believes in God or not believes in God. It was or your higher power. I do believe that this was given to me for a purpose, and it was a gift. Nobody looks at getting a disease as a gift, but for me, it was. It taught me to live.
Yeah, well, so let's go deeper into that because I asked you before, okay, what was the difficulty, the worst part of it? And I've heard you say a couple times in different ways now that you learned to live. And so what does that mean? Will you say more about what the gift was and
So
what you
so
got?
living for me was existing.
Hmm.
I just kind of existed. I figured that my lot in life, nothing was going to go great. Um, I was a single mother. My parents helped me out. It was difficult. We didn't have a great relationship, but uh, I learned to embrace a lot of the yuck, as I like to call it. And it just changed when I got the RA. It just changed. Like nothing, like the past didn't matter anymore.
Hmm.
It didn't matter. It was, I had so much more to live for, and I had to figure out what that was. So living was not existing. It wasn't drudging up the past anymore. It wasn't placing blame on anybody anymore. I put placing blame on myself.
Hmm.
I think more importantly, um, and I had to learn to forgive me first
Hmm.
and move forward from that. And that was hard. A lot of therapy and a coach.
Hmm.
I had my own coach. My own coach, she's like, you got to erase that thought. How are we going to change that? And I was like, I have no clue. And for a while, they had to come up with their own thoughts for me to adopt.
Hmm.
They were my example. And in the process, I found out that I was a people pleaser. I was hyper vigilant, And these were all like survival skills for me. And, as an adult, they're not good for you.
Right.
And I no longer do that. And that was something that took years to figure out. I mean, it didn't just happen overnight, but, and I still have them in my head, like, oh, my daughter's supposed to come first, or, I got to do this first. And I got to know, if I don't take care of this first, I'm really no good for anybody. And that's living for me, putting me first. And it took practice and making lots of mistakes along the way.
Can you give us an example of that?
An example was I would choose to help everyone else, knowing that I had work to do at home to get my business. And this is recent, starting a business, right? And I chose to help everybody else because they were always much more important. And then when I would turn around, someone would say, well, how are you doing in your business? And I would have a litany of like, well, I didn't get this done and I didn't get this done. And they're like, do you know why you didn't get that done? And I'm like, yeah, because, they had to get their stuff done first. I had help. And they're like, no, you chose them instead of you. And that took time. And that was my coach that I have now. She brought it very much to light and she pinpointed it each time. So there was, even now with my mother-in-law, here I am at my house, I'm trying to balance, and I'm doing it. I'm putting me first. I take a break and then I do. It's not easy when you put yourself first, especially when you're used to putting everybody else first. And then there's the hypervigilant when I was taking care of my mother. She was so important that I couldn't focus around anybody else. And I went into a really bad flare. And again, my coach had to like, do you know why you're in a flare? And I would be like, no, why am I in a flare? And she's like, let's break this down. It's like, oh, I'm taking care of my mother. I'm not taking care of me. I've missed my medications. I would get so tied up in everybody else that I would forget about me. Yeah. And that was not living. When you're taking care of everybody else, you have no room for yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. It's interesting timing for me. There's a client I've been working with that's really discovering how challenging it is for her to set boundaries. And that's part of what I hear you speaking of too. So you said this, I'd love to go deeper if you're willing. You said that you were people pleasing, you were, helping everybody with their stuff and then ignoring what you wanted to do or you felt like you wanted to accomplish. Why were you doing that? What was causing that behavior?
I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that I deserved it.
Deserved what?
To be successful. And of my definition, I believe I'm successful today. Am I making $1 million? That doesn't define success for me. For me, success is being able to put me first and I can get things done at my pace. And I'm a better mom. I'm a better grandmother. I'm a better wife. I'm a better daughter-in-law. So, friend, I mean, it all comes into play. Better coach, because if I'm not putting myself first and I'm telling them that they need to do that, I have to lead by example. It's a lot to do that and to actually follow through. And when you don't follow through, not to beat yourself up over it. And that is just the human nature. We like to find, oh, look at that. But, I never understood it when I was younger that, life is a series of mistakes. Especially if you learn from those mistakes, then you get to live. And it took me, I was in my 50s learning that. I had no clue. It's never too late to grow up. That's the other one I keep telling everybody. It's never too late. And growing up doesn't mean you have to stop playing.
Nice. Well, so let's take this a bit further because I imagine that some people in our audience, live or by rebroadcast, are going to hear what you're saying about how you had this challenge and confrontation with people pleasing and doing them, and now you can see that there was a level that you weren't believing in yourself and thinking you deserved the success that you wanted according to your definition. Though in practical terms, I imagine that because you'd been living this way for a while, that people were used to asking you, and you would take
Yes.
care of their problems for them. So just on the brass tacks level, what did you
I
do?
lost friends. I
Oh,
lost friends. I've lost people that were in my life. People don't like when you're honest,
mm,
you know, and that's okay. I had to be okay with that. I wasn't in the beginning. I got to tell you, I did a lot of crying,
mm.
but I am okay with it today. I think the people that have left me will be back. They're just not ready in their part of their life. I will never keep them shut out, especially the loved ones um, that I love them. Some of the people that I love the most didn't like my change.
Well, so what did that look like? Before you answer, I'll tell you there's one of my favorite lines I heard from Joe Dispenza years ago. He said he was talking to a group of people about being in the process of changing, and he said, "So here's what you do: you change your greeting on your phone. So when people call, your greeting then says." Hey, thanks for calling. I'm in the process of making some changes in my life. If I don't call you back, you're one of those changes.
Yes, I've heard of that.
So
Right.
what did it look like for you? Like what caused somebody to say, I don't want to be your friend? Maybe they didn't say it, but
They really didn't say it. We just kind of we just distanced ourselves. It was never really it was never a conflict, except for one, which I still struggle with because they're a very important part of my life. But
mm,
again, we all have a part of our life that if you don't want to see the truth or you don't want to feel your truth or my truth is not your truth, I'm okay with that. But I'm never gone.
mm,
And I think if anything, I hope I'm an example that change is possible and I can still love you even though you're not in my life.
mm,
That's what it's to me. That's what changed for me with some of the people that are not in my life. Some of the people I'm okay that they're gone. Like I was
mm.
like, oh God, they're just dragging me down, and I didn't know it until they were gone.
Right.
Like that was a few. I mean, that was kind of a realization. And I thought I was going to be so upset,
Mm,
and I wasn't at all.
mm.
I wasn't. I was like, wow, like I could see I'm okay with them not being here, involved in my life, and that was okay.
Yep.
And people, like, and again, I didn't understand this when I was growing up either. People are in your life for, a day, a week, a season, a year, whatever. And they have a purpose in your life at those times and they teach you a lesson. Um, I never understood it until I became a coach,
Mm,
until I started making my changes. Um, it is so true that people are always put in your way for a purpose, whether it's to help you, teach you a lesson, or just to be there. And that was a hard nut for me. I never understood it, and now I get it. So
mm,
I know each person that has been in my life has had a purpose in my life,
mm,
and I don't hate them for it at
mm,
all. I love them because they helped me at some point to
mm.
grow.
Beautiful. Well, and so I'm curious then, you said something a moment ago about you didn't always know that, about the timing of people in our lives, and
Mhm.
that you learned that in coaching or through coaching. What's been I know that I've been working as a coach for a long time. A lot of our listeners have. I might be a fish in a fish bowl, and then there are people in our audience that don't know anything about coaching. What What do you mean when you say coaching taught you that? What's been the value for you?
So for me, being coached, I should
Mm,
say being coached was huge
mm,
because I had done years and years and years of therapy,
mm-hmm.
and I knew where I came from. I understood it. It was fine. I just never knew how to move forward. And
Oh,
that wasn't taught. So with coaching, it taught me how to take that next step, as difficult and uncomfortable as it was. Um, and I grew to like uncomfortability. A lot of
Oh.
people don't like that. I do know that when I'm uncomfortable, it means I am in a growth spurt.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that either. So each step that I've taken along the way, as when you lose someone and you're uncomfortable because you're sad, the flip side of that was I was growing.
Hmm.
Um, and even in my marriage, my husband kept saying, "You're growing too fast for me. I
Hmm.
can't keep up." And I remember saying to him one time, "Well, you either keep up or I'm leaving you behind." And I was so focused about moving forward. And then finally had this thought of like, "Oh my God, that was like really harsh." Like, but, um, mind you, he's caught up. We're still together, but he grew at his pace, and I had to allow that to happen. I had to allow him to catch up to me. Um, and not that it was an intellectual or anything like that. He had to catch up to me to see my change, my
Hmm.
growth. You
Hmm.
know, he has seen me at my absolute bottom. And I love my husband, and he has seen me at my absolute top and everything in between.
Hmm.
And I always thought my daughter taught me what unconditional love was. She introduced it. My husband is absolutely unconditional.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, I never knew what it was until I had a child, and now I know what it is to actually live it and have it exposed to you. So yeah, I would say a lot of things. Coaching changed a lot. It made
Hmm.
me very aware, you
Hmm.
know, just to be aware of my body, my thoughts, my actions, the result I got from those actions,
Hmm.
you know, and realizing that what caused it was all a circumstance, that I had a thought about a stupid circumstance.
Hmm.
You know, I'm still thinking about what happened to me, when I was in high school. I'm like, but that happened in the past, and it was just a circumstance. But I
Well,
let it
and
and I'm just using that as an example, but I
yeah,
let something like that drive me for years, emotionally drive me. And until I was able to realize that was just a circumstance, something happened in my life, it was in the past. And I had the same thought for 30 years.
right. And that's what I want to double check because I'm guessing that part of what you mean is that there was a circumstance, but the circumstance didn't do anything unto itself. It was your thinking about it. Is that right?
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. The circumstance. And that's the best part, I think, about coaching.
Hmm.
Everything has our thoughts come from just something that happened to us. It's a circumstance.
Yep. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And we make it feel real. Like it's the truth. And you know, my circumstances, I have rheumatoid arthritis. I can have lots of thoughts about it.
Yeah.
I can have
Well,
lots of I can have thoughts that are gonna propel me, and I can have thoughts that are gonna keep me stuck. I had the stuck ones,
yep.
and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the fact that I was sitting on a couch watching everybody else live
Hmm.
and enjoy a party. And I just sat there and wallowed in like, oh God, I can't participate. Where
Hmm.
now if I'm in pain, sitting on a couch, I can participate from that seat.
Hmm.
you know? So it was all just like a little thought, just a little tiny thought of, all right, so I have all right, big deal. Doesn't stop me from living, only if I let it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, Annmarie, now I would be grossly negligent if I did not return to something you said a few moments ago,
Okay.
which is I know so many people in the worlds of transformation, growth, personal development, spiritual development who struggle with something like, oh, my partner's not into this stuff. My partner's not growing like I am. We're on
Mm,
different paths, that kind of thing. So I want to go back and zoom in a little bit. The moment
Absolutely.
when your husband said, right, you're growing too fast. Will you take us into that? What was going on for him and what did he mean?
I was kind of just excluding him. I was excluding him because there was so much excitement in the growth. Like I remember, like it was kind of almost like that first growth spurt that I had. Like when you watch a child walk and everybody's so excited. I was there. I was in those first baby steps of just growing, but they weren't just baby steps. They were like 10 baby steps really quick. And I was so excited. And I would take 10 more baby steps and I'd be so excited. And then before it know it, I was far away. But I was so far away that I was disconnected. Not he wasn't. And I had to realize that I wouldn't be those 10 steps, those 20 steps, those 30 steps ahead if I hadn't had his support.
So what did that look like? I mean,
he was angry. I'm going to tell you right now, he was angry. He was like, oh, I can't believe, and he's probably listening to this now thinking, oh, wow, she's telling that story.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
and we don't hide anything either. So that's kind of,
well, what was he angry about? Like, what did that look like?
To him,
I know you were going fast.
I think it was I wasn't considering him, where he always considered me, and always my support. Where I was just learning how to cope, but I didn't know how to do cope and grow and love all together.
Okay.
And that's again, it's a skill. I believe that's a skill when you're growing, and I wasn't pulling him in to let him know what was going on. I was just going and going, and the communication broke down. And if you're married or you have a significant other, communication's huge. That was my part, and I was looking at it like I'm going without you. But he wanted to be along. He just didn't know how to he didn't know how to catch up. And I remember the one conversation we had. It was sort of it kind of went like, how can I catch up to you? How can we be together on this journey? And I didn't know. I had to like really sit down and figure it out. And came right back down to communication, and just telling him where I was at and hearing where he was at and where we could meet each other in that part. And I'll go back to, because we did that when I was diagnosed, he was so much further ahead of me when I found out. He knew the next steps to take. I went into, I don't know what to do with my life. Oh my God, like I'm going to be here. And he took the reins for me. He was the one that was at every doctor appointment with me. He was the one that listened to the doctor. He was the one that had the questions, because I would be like, oh my God, I want to ask this question. And he would have them. He was my eyes, my ears, my heart, my everything in that moment. And I'd already been on this journey of moving forward, right? And here I was back here and he was forward. And because we learned where to meet each other in the middle, we were able to figure it out together and not leave each other behind.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you both had the impulse, the drive, the presence to, even if you'd kind of gotten off track, to get it back together, that you pulled each other in.
Yes. And, they say like marriage is 50-50. Yes. That's not an equal 50-50 because you know what? When I was going through that, I'm going to tell you, he had 90%. He was doing it. He recently lost his job. I think I was like, 75% taken over, just the emotional part in the marriage. There's that give and take. To have someone that's supportive that's a blessing too. That was a gift that I realized when I got RA, that, wow, I gotta remember that. And I gotta be appreciative and say thank you and, acknowledge more often. Not that he needs it, but it's nice to hear.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of the best things any woman can give to her man, or any feminine can give to the masculine, is a simple thank you, appreciation.
Right.
Like it costs nothing, yet it fills us up in powerful ways.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
It's
So,
priceless. So yeah, this has been it actually, again, the gift of RA made our marriage stronger. I keep going back to that. It just, um, it no one's when you first get diagnosed, you don't look at it that way. But I mean, I did do a lot of work to get here.
hmm. Well, let me ask you one more question on this, because I see in you that you got this thing that you didn't want. Nobody would ask for that, and yet you have managed to extract gold from it. You've gotten a lot of
Mm.
benefits, right? Some people get a diagnosis like that, have those symptoms, and their life just goes downhill from there. What makes the difference?
I think having a coach just changed everything for me.
Hmm.
I really do. Because I would have lots of thoughts and I couldn't figure out which one was the most important to work on.
Hmm.
And I remember my coach asking me, like, write 5 things that is really hard for you. And you really can never really write five because your brain is always stuck on the same two. Mine
Hmm.
was, what am I going to do the rest of my life? Like, what am I going to do? And
Hmm.
my job, because I was getting certified to be a life coach when this all happened, and
Huh.
I couldn't even coach myself because it was
Right.
so great. So that was big on, like, what am I do with my life, and will I ever enjoy my grandchildren?
Hmm.
Because they were really young at that time, and um, I want that. That's my joy,
Hmm.
is to see their beautiful faces and the innocence of, like, pure love.
Hmm.
And the questions, and you get to I wanted to be the fun grandma, so I'm the fun grandma, and I didn't know how to do that in pain.
Yeah.
So I had to, and we worked through that. We had to work through those two questions because I was like, I can't think past that. And eventually you work on those and other ones come up. I mean, then it's like, well, how am I intimate with my husband? And then that came up. That was like a huge one. Like, now what do I do? Because life started getting easier, and I was afraid, like, oh my God, am I going to break myself doing this? Thinking, like, not him. Am I going to break myself? And yeah, you work through it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
everything. It affects all of you. Um, and I think all autoimmune diseases affect all of you.
Sure.
It's just, like, I don't coach on all autoimmune because I really just know RA. I can help you with your mindset, but I
Hmm.
know the RA stuff, and I can. I that's my purpose. I really believe God put that in my path to do that.
Yep.
You know,
Wow. So I will highlight and amplify what you said, though, because, well, one, it's exactly fits with my own experience. And I think it's so useful for people to hear it. When I asked you, like, what makes the difference between, a challenging life occurrence, a diagnosis, the pain, and going downhill or going uphill from there, your response was coaching.
yeah,
And and of course I claim my bias because I am a coach, and I've employed coaches and mentors in my life for going on 30 years now,
mm,
and I can't imagine what it would be like not to do that. I did I met with someone recently, and I was just giving them some help in their life, and they've never had coaching before, and so it was so new to them, and it was a great eye opener for me. Like, wow, what it's like not to have somebody with you caring for you that can give perspective. Um, it's hard for me to imagine now. The value is so tremendous with it. That's beautiful.
yeah. It's and even if they don't want to work with me, I'm like, I'll find you someone.
Yeah.
Like, I am that passionate about it. And I have it for, like, a lot of things in my life. It started off as weight loss.
Mm.
I mean, that's how it started.
Mm.
And then it was like, it just changed. It changed into how to live,
Mm.
and the horrible thoughts that I had. I mean, they were horrible. And I don't go into all the other stuff of where, I very much contemplated about, I'm done living. I'm
Mm.
done living. Hence why I went to therapy, like, and then to be able to come back to it with a coach and talk about what was going on in my head at that time.
Mm.
That was kind of an eye opener, because again, it came down to not being able to cope. I mean, and I think that's kind of where we go, is we help them how to cope a little bit in a different way. There's no exact rules on how to cope. We find how we cope as ourselves. How do we soothe ourselves and not beat ourselves up?
Mm. Yeah.
And I think everybody beats themselves up. I mean, I still do it. I just catch it quicker now.
Nice.
And I just think it's human nature. We want to blame because it's easier. It's like, no, that was my fault. Shoot. In mid thought, I'm like, oh, I hate when I'm doing this. Oh, it's me. And then I got to coach myself on it. Like, all right, why are you wanting to blame them? Why are you not looking at yourself?
Yeah. Well, okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that piece. I think that's really valuable for people. And as time is ticking along for us here, Annmarie, is there anything that I haven't asked you, or you haven't had a chance to speak about, that you would like to?
I just think women in middle age, we forget, our children grow up, our parents get older, and we don't really take time before we get to middle age to figure it out. I really hope these 30 somethings, 20 somethings, find a coach young and learn to prioritize themselves, because we don't. That's kind of a woman thing, I believe. My husband says no. I don't know, but if we don't prioritize ourselves, we're pretty lost when our kids grow up and everybody leaves the house. And my parents are gone now, and my daughter's married with kids, and thank God I found coaching to figure out how to put me first. Some people don't do that, so it's important for me that they figure this out. And
Yeah.
you don't need a problem for coaching. That's the other thing. You don't have to have a problem to do this. You could just be uncomfortable and not happy with something and figure out where to go next.
Well, and it's actually possible to just say, hey, life is good and it could be gooder. Let's make it gooder.
Yeah.
Right. I remember
Absolutely.
years ago when I was living in Bali, there was a man moved there and he started doing oxygen therapies, ozone therapy. And I was so excited because I knew about the health benefits of it. And I had never been in a place where I could receive that. And so I called him up and I asked him, what do you do? And how's the services? And what's the cost and all that? And he answered all my questions. And he said, so, what's wrong? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, what's the problem? I was like, oh, no problem. I just, I want to feel even better. And there was silence.
Right.
And he said, nobody's ever said that. Right. So I'm with you. There doesn't have to be a problem if for us to see that life can be even more beautiful.
Right. And that could be your definition of being healthy. I'm staying within my perimeters to stay healthy.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I believe we don't need to have a problem to have someone help us with our thoughts.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, as simple, like you said, simple. I just want to maintain.
Yeah, that's great. So, Annmarie, I'm sure there are going to be viewers, whether they are working with RA or autoimmune, or just otherwise are inspired by you, who would love to get in contact. What's the best way for them to reach you?
So I have a website, and it's because life is all about changing, right? So my website is Life Coaching for Change. You can come on there. You can contact me. I will reach out to you. Facebook also. I have 2 pages. One is my profile page, which is just Annmarie Entner. I'm on there most days, just checking out to see what other people are doing, because I'm nosy like everybody else. And then I'm on Instagram, and I'm ra. or RA underscore advocate, RA advocate. And that's a lot of fun stuff. You see me living there, out with my grandchildren, and I did a bucket list recently. I went horseback riding. You'll see me on a horse.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Never thought I'd do that again. So, it's possible.
Great. Okay.
You get to see living. You get to see living. You'll also see in the early stages of where I was crying. But
okay, so the whole journey.
The whole journey is there. Even from like where I was heavy to losing weight, it's all there.
Wow, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing all that. And for people that are listening and not seeing, because I did flash the website up there, that's lifecoachingforchange.com. And all those words, life coaching for change, are spelled just like you would think. So perfect. All right. Well, I think, Annmarie, that brings us to the point of me asking you the big question, the impossible question. And I say it's impossible because you've got so much experience now, so much wisdom. You've overcome so much yourself. And now I am asking you to distill that, to boil it down. So if you were to say just one thing, give one piece of information, one suggestion that would help people to live their most vibrant, thriving life, what is the one thing you would say?
Open the door, step into it.
Open the door, step into it. I love that. Will you say a tiny bit more? What does that mean? Open what door?
Open a door. Doesn't matter. Open the door to your heart. Open the door to outside. Open the door to your mind. Be vulnerable. Open the door and step. Lean in. Just take a step. And it could be any step. It could be a baby step or a huge step. And if your step is asking for help, you've opened another door.
Nice.
Open a door. It's kind of how that's what I did. I opened a door. And then I know everybody says, one door closes, another door opens, but I think we can open more doors than closed doors. So,
yeah. Well, I love that, and part of what I hear you saying is go for it. Take a step, create your life. It's possible. You deserve it.
Absolutely.
All that to me is wrapped up in
that. And you get to embrace it. You like it or don't like it. You get to decide. You still get to decide, I think that was one of the things that I learned in the beginning is I get to decide.
Beautiful.
And there's no rules.
Nice. All right. Well, Annmarie, thank you so much. Not just for taking the time, which I appreciate, but also for your courage and your heart and, the way you've taken those lemons and made beautiful lemonade and your passion for helping others with this. So thank you so much for that and for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. And I hope if I reach one person, it's all been worth it.
That's it. That's the game.
Just one person. It's just one person. And that one person is, you're worth it. Don't give in and don't give up.
Beautiful. All right. And y'all in our audience, thank you, because you are the heroes of this story. I love that you are here. I love that you are interested in a more vibrant, thriving life. It would be super awesome if more than interested, you do something with it. You take a step, you take some of the wisdom that Annmarie brought today and you say, I'm going to try that out. I'm going to put that into place in my life. I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to go through the door. And I love you. I so love that you are here with us. I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you so much for being with us. Come back soon. We got more vibrancy on the way. Thanks, y'all. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.